Greetings. So, today I want to talk about. I'm going to title this one, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because I'm really seeing and realizing. And you know how it's like you realize things, but then you kind of go through a cycle. Like even learning is kind of cyclical, where it's like you learn it, you download it, then you go through things that make you forget it, and then you kind of have to come around again and realize it again, right? So I'm realizing that, like, just how we see dark skin as a negative thing, we see night as a negative thing, the color black as a negative thing. So it's like all things dark in hue are seen negatively. And I guess the reality is that we just have kind of been programmed to see the day, the light of day. It's like it has to be light in the sun, the light of day, shining. And that it's like everything that's dark, moon energy, the intuition is seen as negative. If the sun is seen as the masculine, right? The moon is the feminine. So it's like this feminine energy. This goes also with that song I talked about it on this channel before. Deep in the bottom, it don't get no deeper. Mm, 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 Than the bottom of Africa. Ooh, I recommend you listen to that Deep in the Bottom by Monique Bingham. And I think it might be Black Coffee too. That Black Coffee. It's like anything that is seen as dark, then it's like we attach a negative energy to it. But it's not that at all. But there's a programming that we have to work through in order to get past that mindset. And so I was thinking about this. Sorry, let me just get my sips, just a couple sips. It's like I thought of this idea of it being like a bakery. And you go to this bakery and the butterscotch cake is the most highly revered cake at the bakery. It's the one where when you walk in, try our butterscotch caramel cake. It's delicious. Everybody loves it. Go have it, So everybody goes in. And so then that spreads word of mouth. Did you hear about the butterscotch cake? The caramel cake. It's the best cake, right? And then, there's all these other delicious things at the bakery made by the same baker. And everyone just wants the caramel cake. And so I'm talking about colorism right now. I'm talking about racism right now. I'm talking about a lot of the isms that all kind of fall under this category of like pushing the dark to the side. And it's like, so you're going to go into this bakery, have this same cake every single time, and then pretend like not all of these other deliciously made things aren't made by the same baker. And so it's like, so just say that your palette is limited compared to saying that butterscotch cake is the best cake that only exists ever, right? Because, like, it's all made by the same baker, just with different ingredients. There could be a pistachio cake, give it a try. You know, nobody has a problem with the angel cake, not in our world. You know what I mean? The angel cake, no issue there. Everybody loves a good caramel butterscotch, but then nobody's rocking with the blackout cake except for the chocolate lovers, right? It's like you have to find the chocolate lover in this bakery. And so I'm using that as an analogy to describe just kind of how we see the world and how there's kind of a neuroses for certain people, especially who are really stuck in this colorism mindset where they feel like everybody else has to feel that way, that everybody else has to feel like butterscotch cake is the best cake, where it's like you should feel less than if you're not butterscotch, like projecting onto you. Why don't you feel less than? Why do you love yourself as a blackout cake? Why don't you see that you're not as good as a butterscotch cake? Love, I don't feel like that. Like, I don't feel like that. Although I've had to work through being programmed to feel like that, right? But like, that's the work that I do, the self work that I've worked really hard to do, because I was sick of feeling like I had to feel like that. Sick of feeling like I had to feel like I'm just a blackout cake and not as good as the butterscotch cake or the angel cake, or sometimes a little bit compared to the pistachio. Like, no, I'm not doing that to myself. You know what I mean? And so then there's this negative energy that it's like, you need to feel like you are not as good as a butterscotch cake. And it's like, that's just not, I refuse to feel that way. I refuse to feel that way anymore. And I've worked through and recognize my own shadow enough, right? Because really you're also avoiding the shadow. What is the shadow? The dark inside of you. Everything has a dark and a light side. And that's kind of what I feel of, like, cyclical. It's a cycle. We have the day. You can never escape the night, right? You can never escape the night. The night always comes. Always. Is it negative if we have to deal with it every day? Or is it just completely different? Is it just the other side of the spectrum? But it's like you can't avoid it, or so just because we sleep. A lot of y'all are asleep. A lot of these folks are just sleep on the night, on the moon energy, on the feminine, on the like the deepness and the root of dark, like the intuitive, the unseen. And so that's why I want to call it, like, are you afraid of the dark? Because it's kind of like that's what you're afraid of, what you don't understand, what you are afraid to try, what is not put on a pedestal and blasted into the light, what you haven't experienced, what isn't celebrated, right? That is what's pushed aside. And usually it's like there is truth in that. There is truth in that. And it doesn't always have to be shiny. Sometimes it's a glow. Sometimes it's a glow. The moon glows, the sun shines. It's just different. It's just different, but you have to deal with it all. And so, this is just kind of like a constant thing that I really wanted to talk about for a lot of different reasons, right? Because I feel like then it goes into the unseen of not believing in psychic abilities, not believing in the intuitive energy, not believing that um and I won't even say not believing anymore. Like, I just feel like those that don't believe at this point, you know, whatever, like, it's too much, it's too out in the open at this point to try to pretend, you know, like, I'm not talking to the people that, but I do want to just, you know, bring into light, shine a light on how then people that it, like, it goes with not believing the intuitive and not believing the woman at the end of the day, not believing the Black woman at the end of the day. Like, do you see how it just, like, literally fits into everything that kind of falls under dark and negative, when really, like, that is what it brings into balance the rest of the day? Like, it's like we need that. It's the time of rest. It's the time of recollection. It's the time of intuition. It's the time of, like, peace. It's the time of grounding. It's the time of getting back to the root of you. Like, it's like that is what the nighttime is for, along with many other things, right? But it's like that is the time for you. So it's like that's what balance is. And so then it's like that's how that goes into grind culture, even, that you're supposed to be in sun energy 24/7, that you work and you work and you work and you work and it's no days off, and even when it's nighttime you work and you work and you work and you work. That's off balance. How is that when the sun has about 12 hours? Right? Like, the sun has about 12 hours. We work for about 12 hours, and we need that other 12 to go inwards. And so what happens when we're inwards? All kinds of things. I feel like this is, you know, people that don't believe in ghosts, don't believe in the power of the power of magic, the power of nature. I was watching this show. I only watched like the first episode of Green Frontier on Netflix, and it totally touches on that. Like, just that how, and I was talking about this too, the tree spirits, how they protect us, right? And how they honestly protect the divine feminine and the dark feminine, really, as well. But like that the power of the dark is so powerful and so needed to be accepted just as it is, you know? Like, accept it just as it is and be willing to not compare it or try to make it. Like, you can't make the night the day. You can't make the night the day. But it doesn't mean that it's better than. It doesn't mean that the day is better than the night. It's just literally the opposite. And I feel like it's questionable that people that are so stuck in the isms of racism, colorism, and all of these different, like, negativities of, like, this doesn't fit here, this doesn't belong here. how do they treat their inner selves? How do they deal with their own shadow, the own dark parts of themselves? Are they really aware of how their shadow works? Are they really able to see, right? Can you see in the dark? Because people who know how to deal with their shadow can see in the dark and can handle the dark outside of them and within them. That's why I feel like people think that readers are creepy sometimes. We know our shadow, we know the dark side. The dark side, we're comfortable with it, so we can see in it. And sometimes the things that you see are can be scary. It can be scary, but it doesn't have to be negative. It's just different. It can be negative, but just like things in the day can be negative. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the labels don't really work because it's really cyclical. Like our earth, it's constantly a cycle going around and around and around. There's a high and there's a low, but low doesn't mean less than. It's a high and a low, an up and a down, a left and a right, right? It's all like everything. And you know, how they say those Kim Kranz cards, accept all, reject none. It's like that is the power of being able to honor everything. The light and the dark is to be able to accept all and reject none. And that's hard. We all have things, we all have to have boundaries in our life, right? Like, I'm not saying just let everything in and just don't give a damn. No, but like, there are things that we have to accept are going to exist whether we like it or not. And then when we can question why we don't like it, it makes for better understanding. Do I not just like it because people have told me ever since I was a child not to like it? Because I've been programmed not to like it? What's actually not to like? And it's like the beauty of having free will is we can take accountability for the things that we just don't like. But that doesn't mean that everybody else has to not like it. It doesn't mean that we have to create a world where everyone doesn't like it. You can say, I just don't. And then ask yourself, why don't I? Because our programmings have a lot to do with why we don't like things. It doesn't mean that it's bad, it's negative, it's dark, and it's gonna hurt us. It's just like it can cause us pain, though, right? It can cause us pain. But it doesn't mean that it's evil. And sometimes it's like we let evil shine right there, just right there. That's what's so funny. Like, we can see certain things as dark and we let evil walk right on by us and we clap. Like, and then act like the evil is just the intuitive, that's soft and just sitting there waiting for you. But we'll let evil that's loud and just, you know, and I don't mean even loud like that, but like sometimes what's really negative can be so loud and right in our face, and we'll sit there and just be like, yeah, you know. And it's just kind of like, it doesn't, you know, it's twisted in that way. It can be so twisted. Another thing about the Green Frontier that I thought was like interesting, I was watching that and then I decided I wanted to go back to sleep. And so I went, and it is like kind of a sad show about some women that were murdered in the jungle, and how like the indigenous people of that jungle dealt with the death and the way that they honored the women that died there and stuff like that. And so it did kind of have like a sad undertone, right? And then I went to watching this anime show called Cyberpunk, that was also dealing with death, but it was like machine guns, like people getting shot and like their heads getting exploded off and like and like all of that. And I was like, bruh, I cannot watch this right now. Even though they were both dealing with death, the way that the indigenous peoples like silently and intuitively honored the death was so different than the way it was so destructive in cyberpunk. Just like literally heads exploding, bop, bop, bop. And I'm like, these are like similar energies of death, but even the way that we deal with death can be easier. The way that we deal with these dark things can be seen, you know, can be held in more of a motherly way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's a way to hold and hold space for these dark things and to comfort each other through these dark things. And it's just funny how it was just like our world has created a very destructive and evil, this I'll say is evil way of dealing with death, right? Like of just the way it was like it's a similar topic, but I can't watch this, and I'm like more at peace watching this. And so I just thought that was interesting, that there is something to be said about it. And it was very intuitive the way they dealt with the death. It's like they all would stand around the body and like honor the body in a particular way. And then in the morning, they were planning to like, you know, burn the body as a way to offer it back. And that was like a beautiful, very kind of intuitive way of dealing with a dark, sad situation. And it still hurts, but it's like there is always the intuitive way is a beautiful way to deal, right? Compared to then. And obviously cyberpunk is like imagination, like very cartoon, anime, like just whatever, but I just kind of compared the two together and was like, this is kind of what I mean. You know, this is just kind of how I'm like balance what I'm seeing in the world, you know, that like it just had a carelessness. It had a carelessness about death compared to like an honoring of death, an honoring of the dark, compared to an attempt to just destroy it and get it out of here and not give a fuck, right? Sorry. So, you know, are you afraid of the dark? And I feel like it's even a coincidence that kids are like afraid of the dark, right? Like it's like I almost feel like they're pre-programmed to be afraid of the dark before they even like it. By the time they're watching kid shows, they're already like afraid of the dark or like worried about what's under the bed or like, you know, like the programming starts really early for people where it's like we're immediately afraid of what we cannot see, what's not obvious to us, you know, what lurks behind. And our world is literally set up that way, but there's so much truth and understanding in the dark, and that really there's nothing to be afraid of. Like it can be scary, but like again, like I was saying, scary doesn't mean dark. Like, scary can be a lot of things, you know what I mean? Scary is honestly like the corruption that goes on every day, the injustice that goes on every day. That's scary. And we walk right on by and go get a drink at 7 p.m. Like it's like right after. Scary is like the corruption of workplaces. Scary is like the corruption of like multi-million dollar companies. Scary is like these things are scary and we are just like comfortable with it. Sometimes literally just because it happens during the day and we're just used to it happening that way. Still scary. Kind of scary. And then also, it's like because we live in such a masculine celebrated world, in the same way that we celebrate, sun energy, what is bright, what is light. That's, I feel like, why masculine energies can tend to have the hardest time getting in touch with this darker energy, right, energy, moon energy. And in this show, it was like one of the women in the jungle died in like a unjust way, and the one of the male characters in the story asked the forest, asked the jungle to like help him see her again, the woman that passed away, that was killed, right? And so it's like the grass kind of like covers him, and he goes into this deep intuitive state where then he's able to kind of see a little bit of the woman that passed away, right? And she's literally telling him like, you've lost your connection to yourself, like you need to get reconnected to your roots. If you don't, like, we're gonna lose everything. We've lost essentially like a big part of who we are by trying to honor. And she did say white, she did say like the white something, right? So I highly recommend you watch it. But it's like this programming that we have, this like very colonialism programming of what is right and what is wrong. And she was like, if we don't get back to that, we're going to lose everything. And it's like, that is what is trying to be erased and what we are losing. The intuitive, that's what is trying to be pushed away constantly, always. Like, it seems like it always, I don't know what it will take, really. I don't know what it will take in our world for that to not be pushed away. Like, I just feel like the way that we live in this world, it's up to you as a person to want to do that work, because it's in everything that we do. In order for it to stop, all the systems would have to stop. And I don't know, what will that take? A very big breakdown of our world. So it kind of sucks. It really honestly sucks. That's scary. And we're dealing with that in the light of day. So, that alone is scary. And so, like, I don't know. I'm always like wondering in my mind, like, how in a world where like masculines have the power that they have to literally avoid the dark feminine in every way and still live life all the way through, how can we get through to them? And it's not that every masculine can't get through. but it's like they're not asked to get through. They're not required to get through in order to get through life. They can literally kind of float on through without really having to get into that part of themselves. And still be celebrated and still be stable and still be, right? Whereas feminines, like we have to have we are having our period regardless, whether we want to or not. We're naturally connected to that energy, and we have to deal with it. And even like the most avoidant feminine still has to deal with it a little bit. But it's like I feel like masculines really don't. So I don't know how we get through to them. Sometimes it feels like banging on a damn brick wall. Like, please, like, y'all don't see at all? Like, please, like, like, please, y'all don't see any, like, you literally, like, just seriously, it can be painful. It can be so painful. It's like y'all don't see shit sometimes. And it's like, shout out to the men that do the work to see it. But even then it feels questionable sometimes. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just like, so I don't know. I've thought about it for so long in my life. I thought about it, y'all. Like, as a kid, I thought about it. Like, this is just, this is the way I think about things. But it's just, I've thought about it for so long. And that itself is scary. And we're dealing with that. So I just want everybody to say, like, see, scary comes in a lot of different ways. And it can be right in front of us. Scary can be right up on a pedestal and we're honoring it. Scary can be, you know what I mean? And like to the point where for some feminines, especially many black feminines, literally avoiding masculines is our best bet to live happily. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? That then we are then pushed to deal mostly with our feminine energy and not have the sunshine that we literally need, because it's literally like programmed at this point to hurt us and not protect us. And so it's like literally we're better off just avoiding it. And that sometimes we feel that, like, we feel that way, but we feel that way because it's reflected to us in that way. And then it's like, oh, like, she don't like, then it's like, then we get shaded for that. Then it's like, she don't want to be, blah, blah, and that's why, just all this negative shit. And it's like, in order for me to live free, I have to be out basically in the jungle and let Mother Nature care for me and protect me. Because the sun isn't always doing it. The masculine energy is not really doing it. And until they are able to honor the dark within themselves, they won't be able to see. They won't be able to see until they can even get a bird's eye view of the whole situation. That's when they just saw 344, which is like the screaming. It means screaming hawk. It makes me think of like, like a hawk in the sky, right? But like the bird's eye view of the whole situation, until like more masculine energy is able to see that fully. It's like a lot of either you have to play the game that they want you to play, or if you want to fully disconnect, then it's like you're connected to Mother Nature and then you're connected to the feminine, and it feels like that's just the best way to stay safe. And it is safe, But it's like it throws us off balance when you don't want to honor the dark, when you don't want to honor the intuitive. Everyone's off balance. It's not just the masculines that are off balance. You know? It throws everything off. And you know, also it's like, what is the sun? Sun is also the ego. We live in such sun. The sun rules the ego, like the our basic egoic self, kind of, in a way. And so it's like that everyone kind of lives in their ego and is forced to live in their ego in this world, and is always triggered. Our egos are always triggered. Like the work that it takes for anyone, masculines especially, but women, everyone, like it's like I feel like our world is purposely made to program us to be triggered. Our egos triggered. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not cute enough. You're not strong enough. You're not man enough. You're not woman enough. Like, you're not enough. And until you do more, honey, you ain't gone. Like, that's it. And so we're always triggered, and we're always pointing the finger at somebody else as to, what are you doing wrong? What are you not doing? What are you not doing enough of, right? And that's exhausting. That's exhausting. And so everyone just lives in their ego, like, well, you know, I'm gonna then point it at you then. If it's me, then I'm pointing it at you. If it's you, I'm pointing it at you. If it's you, then it's you, bitch. It's you, then it's you, right? And so it's like, ego is everywhere where it just doesn't belong. Like, the shit's twisted. We're twisted out here. We are twisted. And if you are triggered by what I'm saying, this is for you. If you're triggered right now and feeling like what I'm saying don't make no sense, or like, oh, this is, here we go with this shit, or like, if you're feeling it in here, that's your ego. If your heart is feeling tight, that's your ego. That's your ego. And you have to give, I feel like you have to give Black women some credit, because our egos are shot day by day, by day, by day, by day, by day, by night, by day. Our egos are constantly shot, and people are expected us to kind of just sit and be cool with our egos being cut in half. And it's like, that's why many of us are healers and are good at healing. Like, it's like the trauma that you go through makes you a good healer. The pain that you go through makes you a healer, because you have to learn how to heal yourself, right? So it's like, Black women are treated so negatively that it's like, we have to learn how to regenerate ourselves. And then from that, it makes us healers. You know, it's like the work that it takes work. It takes work. It takes work to be able to put your ego aside. It's not easy, because of that feeling right there, right in the heart, that has you tight and feeling like, what the fuck? Like, that energy of like, excuse me? That energy is not easy to then remove, and you have to ask yourself, why do you feel like that, and where does it belong? Where does that feeling really belong to, and where does it come from? And not to mention, it's like, we do it so much that then, you know, there's all these other insecurities that arise that really aren't real. You know, the we're then forced to believe things about ourselves that really aren't true, that we're not good enough, that then we're hyper vigilant and we're hyper this and that, you know, and when we don't deserve to be that way, we don't deserve to feel that way, all because of the ego. And when you deal with that type of shit, you got to get closer to God. You got to get closer to your own spirit, your ancestors. Like, why do you think? Why do you think that you see so many like black women and indigenous women connected to spirit, connected to the most high, doing their spiritual work at the altar, at church, wherever, right? Because it's like that's a place where we can go. That's a place where we can go. That's a place where we can go. Everyone, you know, there's other places we can go to, but I'm just saying, it's like the easiest place to go. That's just what it feels like to me, to connect to self. That's the easiest place, right? So let me see. I'm just gonna shuffle to see if there's anything that I'm forgetting. Mm. And like I was saying also, right, with the ego, it's like that ego, when you say like, oh, black women are angry, right? That is the continuous slashing of our ego that is continuously being pitted against each other. My cat literally just growled in her sleep. She stretched and growled like, ugh. Like, it's constant, a constant cutting down of our divinity, a cutting down of our beauty, a cutting down still. And it's very intentional. Like, it's intentional. It's intentional. And, you know, also, there's no reason to be angry for the masculine, right? I want to say there's no reason to be angry because you are also capable of being healers. But there is sacrifice that comes. It's like our sacrifice. The world basically kind of sets us up to be these healers. It's not easy, but there's a lot of sacrifice. The negativity that we deal with on a daily makes us this. And many masculines help us be pushed into this place where then they're mad because they feel like they can't do this healing work. You can, but what sacrifices are you willing to make? What sacrifices are you willing to make? Are you willing to spend time with yourself? Are you willing to stop having sex for a bit? Are you willing to stop like living in your ego and needing your ego to be stroked at all times? Are you willing to go inward? Are you willing to spend time alone? Are you willing to be single? Are you willing to cut off the extra unnecessary ties? Are you willing to not let what your male friends think about everything affect who you are? Are you willing to go under the moon and talk to the moon by yourself? Are you willing? Are you willing to really listen and not let your ego get in the way? Those are the sacrifices. It doesn't always feel good. Like, it doesn't feel good. You want to be out. Like, I remember times going out to the club feeling so like negatively treated at the club that I would just go home and then sit like under the moon or just sit with myself and then have to deal with how my ego felt about how I was treated out at the club that night. That itself was a sacrifice. But what did it do? Get me closer to self? Do I go to the club? Not really, honestly. Not really. And it's like, whatever. You know what I mean? That's whatever. Like, but it's like, it's those kind of things. Are you willing to feel othered because other people may not honor the choices that you're making? Are you willing to let your friends be like, he whack, he don't want to come out. He whack, he not getting none. Are you willing? Are you willing to be that dude? Because that's what's going to get you closer to self. Are you willing? I keep on hearing that song Ashe by Ira Star. Be proud of me. Be proud of me. Like, can you be proud of what you don't like and what you don't understand? For the Black women that trigger you, because now I feel like I'm talking to a specific kind of masculine. For the Black women that trigger you, can you be proud and can you celebrate what you see in me that you feel like you don't have? Can you be proud and put your ego down and say, you know what, I have to take my hat off to this woman for the gifts that she has? Can you do that? Can you honor that? Can you? And then there's something also about, this idea of fame and being lifted up by other people that can take us away from self, right? Because Black women are not always uplifted in the way that we should be, our ego takes the hit and we have to learn how to deal with that. And it's like, not everyone deals with it well. I'm not saying like it, but it's like your spirit can help you deal with that. Like, but I just hope that masculines know that it's not that you don't have the power to be a healer or to be like an intuitive man or like a psychic man or like whatever, or that this energy is so far out of reach to you. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not far away from you. But it's like there's things that you have to let go of. There's things that you'll have to let go of. And it's like sometimes I feel like there's men in positions where it's like you have money, you can choose to let shit go if you choose to be with self. Like you could, but you would prefer to just not, because you like how it feels to have your ego be lifted in whatever way. And it's like, that's your choice. But I'm just saying that sometimes that's a part of the sacrifice. That's all. And that falls right into literally everything else. Like for the masculine on all levels, for the high corporations that have you working from 9 to 5, 9 to 7, overtime 9 to 10. Are you willing to let that go? Are you willing to let people work less? Are you willing to are you willing to do less? Are you willing to not be the high achiever all the time? Are you willing to honor downtime? Are you willing? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all connected. And it's exhausting. That's the thing. It's so exhausting to do this work. And then here comes somebody, you're so lazy, all you do is lay in the bed. Child, I'm in bed because I'm trying to deprogram. It takes time and rest to deprogram. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, it can be depressing. It can be exhausting to deprogram yourself from all of this. Mm-hmm. And that, I guess it honestly takes defending. I picked that up of like, for masculines, like it takes defending. Like, I don't know, I'm picking up like this whole like succubus energy, right? Of like, I don't know, people wanting you to come out, people wanting you to like be out and about, right? And like, no, come out with us, you know, like that kind of energy. Or like, you know, we want you here with us, you know, like, why don't you ever come out anymore? Like, and all of that. And it's just kind of like, you got to deal with that how you want to deal with that, right? I've never had that experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's never been like, oh my God, we really want you out. Like, where are you at? Come out. Like, that's never been my experience, right? So I've never had to like learn how to push all that away. That's up to y'all how you decide to deal with that. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It is. And it can just make you feel as if like that's really what is better, right? So I don't know. That's the reality of like, I don't really know what it feels like to be a masculine in this world. And then also, I mean, but I do feel like it is that way for feminine energies as well. Like, for me, it hasn't been like that, but I do feel like it's like, you know, come out. Like, for anyone, like for people, it can be like that. You know what I mean? Like, Okay, and I think I'll end it with this. I guess what I was getting from that is that, I don't know. Success takes time. That's just what I got. I don't know. Success takes time. As in, like, just the way the sun isn't going to shine all day for 24 hours. You know, your highest success is going to also take like highs and lows to get there, I guess. So that's kind of what I was getting, but yeah. I don't know. Now I'm picking up on some other stuff that really I really don't feels like drama unrelated to, feels like drama that I really I don't know, other stuff that I'm not, like there's things unbeknownst to me, child, going on that I don't. But anywho, that is the end of this message. Hope it gave you some insight, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.